Hi, I'm Somer Hackley.
And I am Zen Mak, and this is the Art of Search, Hiring in the Age of AI.
Well, Zen, so great to see you today. Thanks again for joining.
Wonderful to be here as always.
Yeah, as always. All right. So today I cannot be more excited. We have Erynn Petersen here with us. So Erynn is an experienced tech exec. She's been building and managing engineering teams through major shifts. So this is the internet, the move to the cloud, and now AI. And she's currently running a startup where she's building an AI product designed to lower consumer health costs. So, Erin, great to see you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you guys.
Absolutely. All right, let's just get into it. So,
Yeah.
dying to ask you, so healthcare and tech, they're both moving very fast. So, when you think about hiring today versus 5 years ago, what feels fundamentally different to you?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. I'd actually say that hiring today versus even 24 months ago is so completely different. And I think that one of the things that I think about a lot right now, we've just hit a growth cycle in our startups. We've come out of a pivot. We're doing really, really well. It's what kind of person does well on a team today? And I think that one of the things that really jumps out for me is that I think we're all familiar with the concept of the forward deployed engineer. And what that really says is that everybody in a team has to be really engaged with customers because the technology is moving so fast that the only way that you can make smart decisions about where you're going and what you're building is to be actively involved in both your customers and in the technology and how fast the technology is changing and also how fast it's changing customer expectations. And so I think what shifted is that what is very important to us are people who are humanists and can connect and can also learn AI concepts, whether or not they're engineers to start out with.
Wow. Yeah, that is a significant shift as we're evaluating skill sets, right? In recruiting, you're going, have you done the thing? Where have you done the thing? At what context have you done the thing? And now we're saying, that's all great, but in the age of AI, we're actually looking for the connection with the user at the front end of this thing. How do you connect with the customers? How do you engage with them? And it's almost like there's a judgment layer that we now have to screen for, whereas maybe before it was a little bit more straightforward. Have you done it or have you not? Would you say that's an accurate way of putting it?
I think that's a great way of putting it. I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you've been following Ramp, for example, and how fast Ramp is growing. And it's
Yeah.
really easy to say Ramp's growing that fast because they're a technology company, right? But Ramp's growing that fast because they have, and you can see it, a deep connection to their customers and their customers' needs. And it reflects itself in every single transaction they handle, every system they build. It reflects at the executive level all the way through to the most junior salesperson and all the way across your engineering and the data teams. I just don't, the pace is fast, but also because the companies who are doing this well
Mhm.
and growing really fast right now have such tight interconnection with their customer, it's just raising the bar for everybody else.
I love that example. So, as a hiring manager, so what do you look for now, hiring in this whole new AI landscape that you maybe didn't look for before?
I've always looked for curiosity and I've always looked for people who can create conditions for others to do great work. And what I'm looking for right now are people who know how to pace themselves. So, we all hear about 996 and this expectation that it's like early internet days, everybody has to work around the clock, but you'll just burn out. And if you burn out, then you can't maintain those relationships to the degree that you have to be able to really grow and deliver value right now. And so, whether it's at the executive level or whether it's with more junior contributors, regardless of competence or vertical, I'm looking for people who know how to pace themselves.
Would we design that in a like an interview rubric? Because I think one of the challenges, pluses and minuses, right, with AI is that we can now have it generate an entire interview rubric from first conversation to follow-up conversation to an interview panel. What are they supposed to ask? How are they supposed to ask it? What does good answer look like? Like how do you see that kind of playing out in terms of what you'd be looking for?
Yeah, isn't it interesting how the fractal nature of AI has just inflected everything at this point?
Yep.
What what I've observed is that a lot of times when people have a very complicated, very long interview process with a lot of different steps and a lot of different stakeholders, it's because they're trying to find the perfect person or the absolute perfect match. And nobody's perfect, no role is perfect. And what you really need is somebody who's really, really good, committed to what you're doing, invested in what you're doing, and is able to grow as part of the team with wherever the business is going to be going, especially if you're doing anything associated with AI. And so that
Mm,
really, for me, takes a lot of the pressure off of
mm,
running these very long, complicated interview situations and getting to the perfect person. And it's a variation. I hate this expression, but you guys remember the secretary problem? It was this old
yes.
algorithm finding a secretary, finding a date, right? I mean, you just come back right to that. It's first principles, right? It is
Uh,
you interview a small number of people, you interview them well, you interview them as a human, you check their credentials, and then if they're a pretty good fit, you bring them on board. And you
yeah.
thank everybody else profusely for taking part in your interview process, right? But you bring them on board and everybody moves forward.
That's from the Algorithms to Live By book, right?
Um, I think it's in
Okay.
there, but it's
Yeah.
actually, I want to say the original study came out of Yale or Harvard, and right after World War II. It's an old
Yes.
algorithmic approach.
That's true. Well, I think one of the challenges that we're finding is the multiple stakeholders and their maybe there's a lack of convergence on what we're hiring for and what the actual output of this hire should be, as opposed to a bunch of input on what the stakeholders think we're looking for at different time horizons, different requirements. And so for a candidate to be able to weave and bob through all of those written or unwritten expectations drags the process out. And instead of having decisions, we have decision fatigue. And so we're just going to add more people into the process because maybe somebody will make a decision because I can't.
I think that actually points to a different problem that we're
Ah.
experiencing right now. So I think that organizational changes haven't necessarily kept up with the
Mm,
pace of technology change and social change associated with AI and social. And what's happened as a result is that particularly hierarchical organizations have tried to give more stakeholders a seat at the table and more control over the outcome. And instead, the most successful organizations from RAMP, which we already talked about, all the way over to the Ukrainian army, are those teams that have pushed out to the edge nodes the ability to make decisions, take action, move forward in accordance with a common goal, and the organizations move faster and get better results. But it does require that people get really comfortable with pushing out
mm.
decision making to the edge nodes, farther into your organization, deeper into your organization, and trusting people. And it means that as leaders, we have to get really crisp and clear on what we're doing and why we're doing it, and not so much on how we're doing it. And that's a big challenge for hierarchical organizations. And it really shows up in a hiring process.
I love that. And I think that's full circle back to how you shared people who can pace themselves and just looking for that as a quality, right? I haven't heard anyone ever say that, honestly, as to
Mm.
but it's just a testament to how you're thinking about like, is the organization set up for this new age that we're in versus looking for skills or, what Zen was saying earlier. So that's a really cool way to think about it.
I learned a lot about this while I was working for the Department of Defense, which was a very
Mm,
unusual hire. It was an unusual role. And one of the things I got to see up close is what does it mean for an organization to completely have to remake itself in the face of changes in the operating environment, right? I mean, I
mm.
think we all know the world's changing rapidly. And also, people in the Department of Defense are really good at pacing themselves, making sure they don't burn out, making sure their teams don't burn out. And I realized that that's something that I can import back into private industry and that it's critically important to setting teams up for success.
I love that. All right. So now if we flip it to the job seeker side, I know you've been on panels, you've been giving such great advice to people, and we're in an interesting market right now. So can you share that sort of advice with our listeners? Like any success stories you've seen out there?
Yes, I just got a success story I'm super
Nice.
excited about. One of the things that I think has shifted is that in this great battle where so many people, I think when they're working with a team like you, or if they're working with someone like Zen, that's one sort of experience. But for a lot of people, what they're doing is they're sending their resumes into resume review systems, et cetera. And then we just sort of have the battle of the bots happening there, right? And what
Mhm.
I've been advising people at the more senior levels is that right now, what you've done in the past is only important insofar as it indicates how quickly you can learn and move forward. And
Mm.
that the most important thing you can do is actually build something right now, both so that you can point to it and show that you're capable of getting hands on, but also so you really understand how the world is changing right now. That's at the executive level. And at the junior level, what I've been telling people, and this is where I had just had a great success story. At the junior level, what I've been telling people is expand your perspective on where you're looking beyond the FANGs, beyond the major coastal cities, and look for smaller companies, regional companies that you really like, that you think that'd be really interesting to work there and apply there. And there's a fresh out of school entry level person. His name's Lincoln Kness, and I gave him this recommendation, and he took this to heart. He found this job at a fantastic company in the Midwest. He just started, and what I explained to him is the important thing right now is going to a place, working really hard, getting your feet wet around people you like and people you respect, and that's exactly what you did, and that's how you start your career today.
Mm.
I don't think it's you can't just move to a coastal city at this point and expect to line up a job at the FANG. They're not there right now. And the jobs aren't there, and it's not the way you start careers today.
Can you share more about this build something? Because I feel like people might be listening and thinking, well, I'm not a like a tech exec. I'm not a, I wasn't a software engineer. How can I build something? Like, where do I know there's a lot of tools out there, but are there any, yeah, any advice, any pitfalls? And what do you mean build something? Like what kind of, yeah, any more detail around that I think would be
That's a great
super
question.
helpful.
I'm in an incubator situation in New York with Out of Pocket Health, and they've been
Yeah.
sponsoring a series of lunchtime get-togethers where people on the team who are not engineers, have never done any development at all, have been building using whatever AI tools people bring to the table. And I think everybody's been very surprised at how much you can build. And you can certainly build prototypes. It's a little bit trickier to build things that are ready for production, but you can absolutely build prototypes. And what I think it does is it allows people who don't think of themselves as technical, first of all, to demystify the act of building something. And it gives real hands-on experience in what it means to build today. So I can give you an example of what I mean by that. I'm a fairly experienced CTO. I've seen a lot of different ways to build, and I've seen this shift through many technology changes. And one of the things that really blew me away was watching an entire group of people, it was 8 people, crowd building an app here in New York that eventually went into prod. And they were
Mm.
running into situations where they were running out of tokens, and their response wasn't, oh, well, we have to stop. It was, well, let's just throw out all these packets that don't make any sense, and which gave my CTO heart attack. But they threw out these packets that didn't make sense. And when they exported it back into Replit, Replit caught all of that, fixed it for them, and was able to shift this out into prod state. And what that taught me is that the pace of development and the way that we now have to build and test products is going to be
Mm.
completely different in 24 months. And it came from just sitting in a room and coding with a bunch of people who frankly didn't know how to code, but managed to
Oh,
build something and ship it to prod. It was a very useful 6 hours.
that's really cool.
Wasn't it cool, Zen? What
Yeah.
struck me cool about that?
Well, first of all, they're non-technical, right? And for them to be able to approach and putting something into production without any prior knowledge in doing so, having the tools that then expanded how they were able to think about what that even could look like, running into, hey, we're out of tokens, now what? And maybe your traditional answer could have been, well, get more tokens or do, or get stuck, raise it up to somebody else. Nope, solve the problem, right? And then put it into another AI tool that then goes, oh, okay, we'll just consolidate this, fix this, and then, ship it.
Yeah,
Incredible. Yeah.
completely different way to build,
Yeah.
right? And my initial reaction, of course, was, oh my gosh, you can't just throw packets out. But I was like, you know what? I'm learning here. I'm going to watch and see what happens.
Yeah.
And they figured it out.
Yeah.
That's a completely different way to think about the world. The world is changing as we're all sitting here.
Did you have a
Yeah.
moment of like, what are you doing as it was
Oh,
unfolding?
100%, 100%. Like I literally covered my mouth. And they said, is this okay? And I was like, you know what? We're
No.
not shipping any user data. We're not exposing any PII. Whatever we're doing in here is okay. And it was
Oof.
great. It worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
would
just
love to
think
be.
it's,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just saying, I think it's such a great way to differentiate yourself. People spend so much time on job seekers spend so much time on resumes or applications but imagine spending more time on what you were saying earlier, Erin, like maybe pursue certain companies and certain geographies or industries that you're interested in. And imagine building something for that and then approaching these conversations with, what I was thinking about this thing and what would happen if you're like, oh, by the way, I built it. And then you have such awesome dialogue because of that. And it's really a use case. And because you've built something, you've thought about it in a new way. And
Yeah.
I can't, it's just what a different conversation you could have. And those tools are there, just go for it. Right. So I think I've never heard anyone give that advice before. I absolutely love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I've gotten this advice from a couple of other people too. And I think that the advice is generally at this point in time, lean in and let people move fast. Test people for what they can do, not merely for what their credentials are. And passing that advice then on to job seekers themselves, I think it's just, even if you're not looking for a job right now, say you're an executive at, good company, you love your team, you love your job, over this upcoming holiday break, those last 2 weeks of the year where everything goes quiet and everything goes a little bit dormant, go ahead and build something and see what it takes. See what it takes to push that out there. Buy a couple of ads, run the ads, see what happens. You'll be surprised at what you learn.
I love what you just said. I think if I can like just synthesize it to what you started this conversation with, right? We started talking about forward deployed engineers and connecting with the users and connecting with the customers. Traditional hiring was about matching skill sets, and we hope that you can do the job that you've done before in this context. And we're basically saying with AI, that playbook's out the door because it's no longer about that. It's about how do you connect with customers? How do you solve problems? How do you not rely on no, institutional knowledge, which now is kind of open source, really, with
Mhm.
AI availability. So now it's how do you go about figuring out the stuff and shipping something and running into roadblocks and getting around it. And I think that's the crux of what a good hire could look like in this age.
Yes, I think that's a great point. One of the things that I was listening to and thinking about while I was hearing you is that if you're on the front lines right now of AI, you understand the economics of everything is being rewritten right now.
Yep.
If you're in a company and you're in your regular 9 to 5 job, you've been a little bit protected from that. But actually building something and seeing how quick and how fast it is really drives home for you how quickly the competitive landscape is changing.
Mm.
And that you're going to have to change how you work. You're going to have to change how you lead your teams because you're going to have to keep up with the marketplace, both competitors and customers who are demanding this sort of response from you.
Well, I think we ended there. I love
Yeah.
the advice. I love the homework you just gave. So people who are listening, take Erin up on it. Go build something, and we'd love to hear what you build and what comes of it. So, well, Erin, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a great conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Zen. That was great. That was great fun.
All right. Talk to you later.